The divorce papers were still fresh from the printer when Gavin Holt found his wife Rachel's wedding ring in Cole Jamison's truck glove compartment. 3 months of detective work, hidden cameras, and sleepless nights had led to this moment in the auto repair shop parking lot. The ring that had cost him 2 months' salary 18 years ago now sat mockingly next to a box of rubbers and receipts from the Motel 6. "Son of a witch," Gavin whispered, his calloused hands trembling as he photographed the evidence. His phone buzzed with a text from Rachel. "Running late from book club, don't wait up. Book club, right." The same book club that met every Tuesday at 9 p.m., but somehow Rachel never remembered what they discussed. Gavin pocketed the ring and walked back into Henderson's auto repair, where the familiar smell of motor oil and brake fluid usually calmed his nerves. Tonight, it made him nauseous. His co-worker Mitch Reynolds looked up from under the hood of a busted Chevy, wiping grease on his coveralls. "You look like death warmed over," Mitch said, squinting at Gavin's pale face. "What happened?" "Found the smoking gun." Gavin held up the ring. "Rachel's been screwing Cole Jamison for God knows how long." Mitch whistled low. "The football hero? The one with the fancy real estate business? The very same. And get this, his son Evan's been dating our Lacey for 6 months. Small world, huh? Jesus Christ, Gavin. What are you gonna do?" Gavin leaned against the workbench, his mind racing. "I'm gonna destroy them both. But first, I need to know exactly how deep this goes." The next morning, Gavin sat in his kitchen drinking coffee that tasted like ash, watching Rachel flutter around in a new dress he'd never seen before. She hummed while buttering toast, her movements light and carefree. The woman who'd barely spoken to him in months was practically glowing. "You seem happy," he said carefully. Rachel glanced over, startled. "Oh, you're still here. Don't you usually leave by 7? Thought I'd stick around. Haven't seen much of you lately." "Well, you know how busy I've been with the church fundraiser and the PTA." She avoided his eyes, focusing intensely on her toast. "Plus, Lacey's been needing help with college applications." "Right, college." Gavin sipped his coffee. "Speaking of which, where is she?" "Spending the night at Sarah's. They're working on some project." Another lie. Gavin had driven past Sarah's house last night. No lights, no cars. He'd bet money Lacey was with Evan Jamison, probably at some party while Mommy Dearest was getting her back blown out by Daddy. "You know what's funny?" Gavin said, standing up. "I ran into Cole Jamison yesterday. Nice guy. We should have him over for dinner sometime." Rachel's face went white. The toast slipped from her fingers onto the floor. That's not necessary. I barely know him." "Really?" "Because he seemed to know you pretty well. Asked about your book club." "He was probably just being polite." Rachel's voice cracked slightly. "I should get going. The ladies are expecting me early today." She grabbed her purse and practically ran for the door, leaving her breakfast untouched. Gavin smiled grimly. Phase 1 complete. At work, Gavin couldn't concentrate. Every oil change, every brake job felt mechanical, meaningless. His life had become a performance, playing the oblivious husband while his wife paraded around town with her lover. Mitch found him in the break room, staring at his phone. "You've been checking that thing every 5 minutes, Mitch said. "What's on there?" "Rachel's location. She said she was going to the church this morning." Gavin showed him the screen. "Guess where she actually is?" Mitch leaned in. "The Marriott downtown. Well, I'll be damned. Room 237. Been there since 10 a.m. It's now 2 p.m. 4 hours? Jesus, Gavin, I'm sorry, man." "Don't be. I'm documenting everything. Timestamps, locations, photos. When I take her to court, she won't get a dime." But even as he said it, Gavin knew money wasn't what he wanted. He wanted them to hurt the way he was hurting. He wanted them to feel the humiliation, the betrayal, the complete destruction of everything they thought they knew about themselves. That evening, Lacey came home with Evan in tow. They sat in the living room playing video games, laughing and touching with the easy closeness of young love. Gavin watched from the kitchen, struck by how much Evan looked like his father. The same square jaw, the same cocky smile. "Dad, can Evan stay for dinner?" Lacey called out. "Sure, sweetheart. Your mom cooking?" "She's at another meeting. Something about the fall festival." Gavin almost laughed. "Another meeting." "I'll order pizza." While they waited for food, Gavin studied Evan. The kid seemed genuine enough, polite, respectful, clearly smitten with Lacey. It wasn't his fault his father was a piece of crap. "So, Evan," Gavin said, settling into his recliner. "Your dad's in real estate, right?" "Yeah, he's got his own company, Jameson Properties. He's always telling me about his deals." Evan's chest puffed with pride. "He says I might work with him after college." "That's great. He must be doing well to afford that house on Maple Street." "Oh, we don't live there anymore. Dad moved us to a condo after the divorce. Says it's more practical." "Interesting. When did your parents split up?" "About 8 months ago. It was pretty ugly. Mom found out Dad was cheating." Gavin's blood ran cold. 8 months ago, right around the time Rachel had started acting different, staying out later, buying new clothes. "I'm sorry to hear that," Gavin said quietly. "It's okay. Dad's happier now. He's been seeing someone new. Won't tell me who, but he's like a different person." Lacey squeezed Evan's hand. "I'm glad he found someone. Everyone deserves to be happy." "Yeah," Gavin said, his voice barely controlled. "Everyone deserves to be happy." That night, after Evan left and Lacey went to bed, Gavin sat in his garage with a beer and his laptop. He'd installed tracking software on all the family devices months ago, a precaution after Lacey had been caught sneaking out. Now he was grateful for his paranoia. Rachel's phone showed she'd been texting Cole constantly. Hundreds of messages, photos, even voice notes. The timeline was damning. It had started 9 months ago, right after Cole's wife had filed for divorce. The messages made Gavin's stomach turn. Rachel writing things to Cole she'd never said to him, promising to leave Gavin, talking about their future together. There were photos, too, intimate shots Rachel had taken in their bedroom, the same bedroom where Gavin had slept alone for months. But the worst part was how they laughed about him. Cole calling him the mechanic, Rachel referring to him as my roommate. They'd turned his life into a joke, and he'd been too blind to see it. Gavin forwarded everything to a secure email account and deleted the evidence from his laptop. Tomorrow, he'd start the next phase of his plan. The opportunity came sooner than expected. Friday night, Rachel announced she was going to a girls' night at her sister's house. Gavin knew better. Her sister lived in Phoenix. But he smiled and wished her a good time, even kissed her cheek as she left. An hour later, he was parked outside the Marriott, watching Rachel and Cole stumble out of the elevator, drunk and handsy. They didn't notice him following as they walked to Cole's BMW, didn't see him snap photos as Cole pressed Rachel against the car and kissed her in the parking lot. "Enjoy yourselves," Gavin whispered, starting his truck. "Because this is the last time you'll be laughing." The next morning, Rachel came home with a hangover and a story about how her sister had gotten food poisoning. Gavin listened patiently, nodding at all the right moments, asking concerned questions about his sister-in-law's health. "Maybe we should send flowers," he suggested. "Oh, that's sweet, but she's feeling better now. No need to make a fuss." "Right. Well, I'm glad you had a good time." Rachel studied his face, looking for any sign of suspicion. Finding none, she relaxed. "I'm going to shower. I feel awful." "I bet you do." While Rachel was upstairs, Gavin called his lawyer. Tom Patterson had handled his father's estate and came highly recommended for family law. He was also a mean son of a witch who enjoyed destroying cheating spouses. "I need to file for divorce," Gavin said, without preamble. "I'm sorry to hear that." "What grounds?" "Infidelity, and I have proof." Tom's voice perked up. "What kind of proof?" "Photos, text messages, financial records showing hotel stays, gifts purchased with joint accounts. Plus, I have her boyfriend's wedding ring, which she left in his truck." "Jesus, how long has this been going on?" 9 months that I can prove, maybe longer." "All right, I'll draft the papers. In the meantime, I need you to secure all joint accounts, make copies of tax returns, and document every asset. Don't let her know what's coming. She won't see it coming until it's too late." "Good." Scorched earth? Scorched earth. Sunday morning, Rachel left for church. Gavin knew she wouldn't be there. Cole had texted her about meeting at his place, but he let her go, needing time to plant the final pieces of his trap. He drove to Cole's neighborhood, a upscale development called Sunset Hills. The condo was nice, but not extravagant. Probably all Cole could afford after his divorce. Gavin parked across the street and waited. 20 minutes later, Rachel's car pulled into the driveway. She was wearing a sundress Gavin had complimented just last week, the one she'd claimed was too fancy for anywhere we go. Apparently, it was perfect for screwing her boyfriend. Gavin watched them through the window, saw Cole pull Rachel close. Saw her laugh at something he said. They looked happy, comfortable, like they belonged together. We'll see about that, Gavin muttered, taking photos with his telephoto lens. Monday morning, Gavin walked into the law office downtown feeling lighter than he had in months. Tom Patterson was waiting with a thick folder and a predatory smile. "This is going to be fun," Tom said, spreading the divorce papers across his desk. "I've included everything: infidelity, intentional infliction of emotional distress, alienation of affection. We're asking for the house, full custody of your daughter, and spousal support. She won't fight for custody. Lacey's 18 in 2 months. Maybe not, but it sends a message. Speaking of which, I prepared a separate lawsuit against Cole Jameson. We're going after him for intentional interference with your marriage." Gavin grinned. "How much can we get?" "Depends on his assets. But I've done some digging. His business is leveraged to the hilt. He's been using real estate speculation to fund his lifestyle. If we can prove he used company funds for his affair with your wife, we might be able to pierce the corporate veil." "You beautiful fool." "I try. Now, how do you want to serve the papers?" Gavin thought about it. He could have them served at work, keep it private. But where was the fun in that? "I want to serve them both, at the same time, in public. That's unconventional, but not illegal. I know exactly how to do it." The plan was perfect. Every Tuesday, Cole met with the City Planning Commission to discuss his latest development project. Rachel attended as a concerned citizen, which gave them an excuse to be in the same room. They thought they were being clever, conducting their affair in plain sight. Gavin arrived early, taking a seat in the back of the council chamber. He wore his best suit, the one he'd gotten married in, and carried a manila envelope. Other than the process server waiting in the hallway, he was alone. The meeting droned on for an hour. Zoning variances, permit approvals, environmental impact studies. Gavin barely listened, focused on Rachel and Cole sitting 3 rows apart, sneaking glances at each other like teenagers. Finally, Cole stood to present his proposal for a new shopping center. As he walked to the podium, Gavin stood too. "Excuse me," Gavin said loudly. "I have something to say." The chairman looked confused. "Sir, this isn't public comment period." "Oh, but this is about Mr. Jameson's project." "See, I'm wondering how he plans to finance it, considering he's about to lose everything in a lawsuit." Cole's face went pale. "What the hell are you talking about?" Gavin smiled and nodded to the process server, who stepped forward with legal documents. "Cole Jameson, you're being served with a lawsuit for intentional interference with marriage, among other charges." The room erupted in murmurs. Rachel looked like she was about to throw up. Cole snatched the papers from the server's hands, scanning them quickly. "This is insane," Cole said. "You can't—" "Rachel Holt," the process server interrupted, walking toward Gavin's wife. "You're also being served with divorce papers." Rachel's face crumpled. "Gavin, please. Not here." "Why not here?" Gavin asked conversationally. "This is where you two have been meeting for months, isn't it?" "Playing house while I work 60-hour weeks to pay for your fake life?" The chairman banged his gavel. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to—" "I'm done," Gavin said, walking toward the exit. "Oh, and Cole? You might want to check your business insurance. I'm pretty sure infidelity violates the morals clause." As Gavin left the chamber, he heard Cole shouting behind him, Rachel crying, and the chairman calling for order. It was the sweetest sound he'd ever heard. The story hit the local news within hours. "Local businessman served divorce papers at city meeting," was the headline on Channel 7. The reporter described it as a dramatic confrontation and a cautionary tale about small-town secrets. Gavin's phone didn't stop ringing. Friends, co-workers, his brother from Denver, everyone wanted to know what had happened. He ignored most of the calls, but answered when Mitch called. "Holy crap, Gavin, you made the news." "I know, I'm famous. How do you feel?" "Like I can breathe again." But the celebration was short-lived. That evening, Lacey stormed into the house, tears streaming down her face. "How could you do that to Mom?" she screamed. "In front of everyone? You humiliated her." "She humiliated herself," Gavin said calmly. "And me. And you, though you're too young to understand that yet." "I don't believe you. Mom wouldn't cheat. She loves you." Gavin pulled out his phone and showed her one of the photos from the hotel parking lot. Lacey's face crumbled as she saw her mother kissing Cole Jameson, her hands tangled in his hair. "No," Lacey whispered. "This isn't real. You doctored it." "I wish I had. But it's real, sweetheart. All of it." Lacey ran upstairs, sobbing. Gavin heard her bedroom door slam, then the muffled sound of her talking to someone on the phone, probably Evan. The kid was about to learn his father had destroyed another family. An hour later, Rachel came home. She looked like she'd aged 10 years in one day. Her eyes were red and swollen, her perfect hair disheveled. "We need to talk," she said quietly. "I think we've said enough." "Please, Gavin. I know you're angry." "Angry?" Gavin laughed bitterly. "I'm not angry, Rachel. I'm disappointed. I trusted you. I loved you, and you threw it all away for a divorced real estate agent with a receding hairline. It wasn't supposed to happen. It just did. For 9 months? It just happened for 9 months." Rachel's composure cracked. "I felt dead inside, Gavin. Like I was sleepwalking through my life. Cole made me feel alive again." "So you decided to eliminate our marriage to save yourself?" "I was going to tell you. I needed time to figure out how. Bees, you were never going to tell me. You were happy keeping me as your safety net while you played house with Cole." Rachel sank into a chair, defeated. "What do you want from me?" "I want you to move out. Tonight. I want you to explain to our daughter why you destroyed her family. And I want you to know that I'm going to make sure everyone in this town knows exactly what kind of person you really are. You can't do that. I have a reputation. Had. Past tense, you had a reputation. The next few weeks were a blur of legal meetings, asset division, and public humiliation. Rachel moved in with her sister, the real one, who flew in from Phoenix to help with the crisis. Cole's business partners distanced themselves from him after news of the affair became public knowledge. Gavin threw himself into his work, but his real focus was on the investigation Tom Patterson had launched into Cole's business practices. It turned out Cole had been more than just a cheater. He'd been cutting corners on his developments, using substandard materials, and bribing city officials for permits. "We've got him," Tom said during one of their meetings. "He's been running a shell game with his finances. The affair with your wife is just the tip of the iceberg." "What does that mean for me?" "It means you're going to get everything you asked for and more. He's going to be tied up in criminal proceedings for years." Gavin felt a grim satisfaction. "Good. What about Rachel?" "She's fighting the infidelity charges, but the evidence is overwhelming. Her lawyer's pushing for a settlement." "No settlement. I want this to go to trial." "Gavin, I have to advise you. I don't want her money, Tom. I want her to stand up in court and explain to a judge why she destroyed our family. I want it on the record forever." Tom nodded slowly. "All right. But it's going to get ugly." "It already is ugly. At least this way everyone will see who she really is." The trial was scheduled for early fall. In the meantime, Gavin focused on rebuilding his relationship with Lacey. It wasn't easy. She was still angry, still defending her mother, still dating Cole's son, but gradually, she began to see the truth. The breaking point came when Evan showed up at their door one evening, looking like he'd been crying. "Mr. Holt? Can I talk to you?" Gavin let him in, curious. "Everything okay?" "My dad's been arrested, something about his business. The police searched our condo and took boxes of files. I'm sorry to hear that. He's blaming you. Says you ruined his life." Gavin studied the young man's face. "What do you think?" "I think he ruined his own life, and mine, and yours." Evan's voice cracked. "I found some things in his computer. Messages between him and Mrs. Holt. They've been planning this for months. They were going to wait until after I graduated, then leave their families and move to Florida." Gavin felt a cold fury rise in his chest. "Did you tell Lacey?" "I showed her the messages. She's upstairs crying." "Thank you for telling me." "Mr. Holt? I'm sorry about what my dad did. I know it doesn't mean much, but I'm sorry. You're not responsible for his choices, Evan. Don't let his mistakes define who you become." After Evan left, Gavin went upstairs to find Lacey curled up on her bed, clutching a pillow. She looked up when he entered, her eyes red and swollen. "I'm sorry, Dad. I should have believed you." Gavin sat on the bed and pulled her into a hug. "You were protecting your mother. That's what good daughters do." "But she lied to me. She lied to all of us." "Yes, she did. But that doesn't mean she doesn't love you. She just made some very bad choices." "I hate her." "No, you don't. You hate what she did. There's a difference. Lacey cried against his shoulder while Gavin held her, feeling like he was finally getting his daughter back. The family Rachel had destroyed was slowly healing, but the scars would take time to fade. The trial began on a crisp October morning. The courthouse was packed with reporters, curious townspeople, and both families' supporters. Gavin wore his best suit and sat with Tom Patterson, watching as Rachel entered with her lawyer. She looked different, thinner, older, defeated. She wouldn't meet his eyes as she took her seat at the defendant's table. Cole wasn't there. He was in federal custody, facing charges of fraud and bribery. The proceedings were brutal. Tom methodically presented evidence of Rachel's affair, using her own text messages and photos to build an ironclad case. He called witnesses who testified about her lies, her absences, her complete disregard for her marriage vows. When Rachel took the stand, she tried to paint herself as a sufferer, trapped in a loveless marriage, emotionally neglected, driven to seek comfort elsewhere. But Tom's cross-examination destroyed her credibility. Mrs. Holt, you testified that you felt unloved by your husband, yet you continued to accept gifts from him, use his credit cards, and live in the home he provided. Is that correct? Yes, but... And during this time, when you felt so unloved, you were secretly planning to leave him and move to Florida with your lover? It wasn't like that. I'm showing you Exhibit 47, a text message from you to Cole Jameson, dated March 15th. Can you read it aloud? Rachel's voice was barely audible. I can't wait to start our new life together. Gavin will never see it coming. Mrs. Holt, does that sound like someone who felt trapped or someone who was actively deceiving her husband? Rachel broke down crying. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Are you sorry for the affair or sorry you got caught? Both. I'm sorry for all of it. The jury deliberated for less than 2 hours. They found Rachel guilty of infidelity and awarded Gavin everything he'd asked for, the house, the cars, and substantial financial damages. It was a complete victory, but Gavin felt empty watching his wife of 18 years sentenced to pay for her betrayal. After the trial, Gavin and Lacey drove home in silence. The house felt different now, bigger, quieter, full of memories they'd have to learn to live with. What happens now? Lacey asked. Now we move forward. We rebuild. We figure out how to be a family again. Without Mom? Your mother made her choice. She chose Cole over us, but you still have a choice about what kind of relationship you want with her. Lacey nodded but didn't answer. They were both too raw, too tired to make those decisions yet. That evening, Gavin sat in his garage with a beer, staring at the divorce decree. Rachel had 48 hours to move out of the house. Her lawyer had arranged for a moving truck, and she'd be gone by the weekend. His phone rang. It was Mitch. Saw the news. Congratulations, I guess. Thanks. It doesn't feel like a victory. You did what you had to do. She betrayed you, and you made her pay for it. I know, but I destroyed her life in the process. She destroyed her own life. And yours. And Lacey's. You just held her accountable. Gavin knew Mitch was right, but it didn't make him feel better. Revenge was supposed to be sweet, but it mostly just tasted bitter. The next few months passed in a blur of routine. Gavin worked, Lacey finished her senior year, and they slowly learned to navigate their new reality. Rachel had moved to an apartment across town and was working at a department store, a far cry from her former life as a social butterfly. Cole's trial was set for the spring. The federal charges were serious: mail fraud, wire fraud, conspiracy. He was looking at years in prison if convicted. His real estate empire had collapsed, and he'd lost everything in legal fees. Gavin should have felt satisfied, but mostly he felt tired. The anger that had sustained him through the divorce was fading, replaced by a bone-deep exhaustion. He'd won, but at what cost? The answer came on a rainy Thursday in March. Gavin was closing up the shop when he saw a familiar figure standing by his truck. It was Evan Jameson, soaked to the skin and shivering. Evan? What are you doing here? I need to talk to you. About my dad? They went inside the shop, where Gavin found a clean towel and a cup of coffee. Evan looked like he'd lost weight, aged years in the past few months. How is he? Gavin asked. Broken. Completely broken. He's been in jail for 2 months, and he's not the same person. I'm sorry to hear that. Are you? Really? Gavin considered the question. Yeah, I am. I didn't want to destroy him, Evan. I just wanted him to pay for what he did. Well, he's paying. We all are. I had to drop out of college because we can't afford it. My mom's working 2 jobs, and your wife, Mrs. Holt, she's not doing well either. What do you mean? She's been calling my dad in jail, crying, saying she's sorry, that she never meant for it to go this far. She's falling apart. Gavin felt a familiar knot in his stomach. That's not my problem anymore. Isn't it? You said you just wanted him to pay. Well, he's paid. They both have. Everyone's paid. When does it end? When I decide it ends. Evan stared at him for a long moment. I used to think you were the good guy in all this. Now I'm not so sure. After Evan left, Gavin sat alone in the shop, wrestling with emotions he'd been suppressing for months. He'd become someone he didn't recognize, vindictive, calculating, cruel. The man who'd once run into burning buildings to save strangers had spent the last year methodically destroying 2 human beings. But they'd deserved it, hadn't they? They'd betrayed him, lied to him, made him a fool. He'd had every right to fight back, didn't he? The question haunted him for weeks. He found himself driving past Rachel's apartment, wondering how she was doing. He read news articles about Cole's upcoming trial, feeling a mixture of satisfaction and guilt. He'd gotten his revenge, but it felt hollow now. The final confrontation came on a warm evening in April. Gavin was grilling burgers in his backyard when Rachel appeared at the gate. She looked terrible. Thin, pale, her hair unwashed and her clothes wrinkled. I need to talk to you, she said. There's nothing to say. Please. 5 minutes. Against his better judgment, Gavin let her in. She sat at the patio table where they'd once planned family vacations and discussed Lacey's future. I came to say goodbye, Rachel said quietly. I'm leaving town tomorrow. Where are you going? Phoenix, to stay with my sister. I can't stay here anymore. Everyone stares at me. I lost my job. I can't afford the apartment. Gavin felt a stab of guilt. I'm sorry it came to this. No, you're not. This is what you wanted. You wanted to destroy me, and you did. I wanted you to face consequences for your choices. I faced them. I lost everything. My husband, my daughter, my home, my friends, my reputation, everything. Are you happy now? Gavin looked at the woman he'd once loved, the mother of his child, reduced to a shadow of herself. No, I'm not happy. Then why did you do it? Because I was angry, because I was hurt, because I wanted you to feel what I felt. Well, congratulations. I feel it. Every day. They sat in silence for a moment, 2 people who'd once shared everything now separated by an ocean of pain and recrimination. I loved you, Rachel said finally. I know you don't believe me, but I did. I lost myself somewhere along the way. I loved you too. That's why it hurt so much. I know, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry for the affair, for the lies, for destroying our family. I'm sorry for all of it. I'm sorry too, for what I became. For how far I took it. Rachel stood up, wiping her eyes. Take care of Lacey. She's going to need you. I will. And Gavin, try not to let this make you bitter. You're a good man. Don't let my mistakes change that. She left without another word, walking out of his life as quietly as she'd entered it 18 years ago. Gavin sat in his backyard until long after dark, thinking about roads not taken and prices paid. The next morning, he called Tom Patterson. I want to drop the civil suit against Cole, he said. Are you insane? We're about to get a judgment that could set you up for life. I don't want his money. I want it to be over. Gavin, he destroyed your marriage. He owes you. He's going to prison. His business is ruined. His son can't afford college. How much more does he need to pay? Tom sighed. It's your call. But I think you're making a mistake. I've made a lot of mistakes. This isn't one of them. A week later, Gavin received a letter from Cole in jail. It was brief, handwritten on prison stationery. Mr. Holt, I heard you dropped the civil suit. I don't deserve your mercy, but I'm grateful for it. I know I can never undo what I did to your family, but I wanted you to know that I'm sorry. Truly sorry. You're a better man than I ever was. Thank you for giving my son a chance at a future. Cole Gavin folded the letter and put it in his desk drawer. It didn't change anything, but it felt like a small step toward closure. Spring turned to summer, and life slowly returned to normal. Lacey graduated high school and decided to attend the local community college, staying home to be close to her father. Evan got a job at the garage, working alongside Gavin to pay for his education. One evening, as they were closing up the shop, Evan approached Gavin with a serious expression. "I want to thank you," he said. "For what?" "For dropping the lawsuit, for giving me a job, for not holding my father's mistakes against me. You're not responsible for what he did. I know, but not everyone would see it that way." Gavin studied the young man's face. "What are you going to do about Lacey? I love her. I want to marry her someday if she'll have me. And if I say no, then I'll respect your decision, but I hope you'll give me a chance to prove I'm not my father." Gavin nodded slowly. "You're not your father. But are you sure you want to tie yourself to this family? We've got a lot of baggage." "Everyone's got baggage. I'm not afraid of yours." That night, Gavin sat in his garage with a beer, thinking about the past year. He'd lost his wife, destroyed his family, and nearly lost himself in the process. But he'd also gained something, a deeper understanding of who he was and who he wanted to be. His phone buzzed with a text from Lacey. "Love you, Dad." "Thanks for everything." Gavin smiled, typing back, "Love you too, kiddo. Always." He finished his beer and went inside, turning off the lights behind him. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities, new choices. But tonight, for the first time in a year, he felt at peace. The sun was setting over the suburban landscape, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Gavin stood on his front porch, watching the neighbors go about their evening routines. The Hendersons were walking their dog, the Parkers were grilling dinner, the Johnsons were playing with their kids in the yard. Normal life, the kind of life he'd once taken for granted. His phone rang. It was Mitch. "You busy tomorrow night? Why?" "There's a new woman at the hardware store, divorced about your age. I thought maybe—" "I'm not ready for that." "When will you be ready?" Gavin thought about it. "I don't know. Maybe never." "That's BS, and you know it. You're 43, not dead. Rachel screwed you over, but that doesn't mean you have to spend the rest of your life alone." "I'm not alone. I have Lacey." "Lacey's going to college. She's going to get married, have kids, build her own life. What are you going to do then? Sit in this house and feel sorry for yourself?" Gavin didn't answer, but Mitch's words hit home. He'd been so focused on revenge and recovery that he hadn't thought about what came next. "Just think about it," Mitch said. "Her name's Carol. She's a teacher. Seems nice." After Mitch hung up, Gavin found himself thinking about the conversation. Was he ready to trust someone again, to open himself up to the possibility of being hurt? The rational part of his brain said no, but his heart was tired of being alone. The next evening, Gavin was working late in the garage when he heard a car pull into the driveway. He looked up to see a police cruiser, and his stomach dropped. Had something happened to Lacey? Detective Nora Tran got out of the car, her expression grim. They'd met during the investigation into Cole's business practices, and Gavin had come to respect her straightforward approach. "Evening, Gavin. Got a minute?" "Sure." "Everything okay?" "That depends. When's the last time you talked to Cole Jameson?" "I got a letter from him a few weeks ago. Why?" "He's dead. Self-destruction in his cell this morning." Gavin felt like he'd been punched in the gut. Jesus. "How?" "Hanged himself with bedsheets. Left a note apologizing to his family and specifically mentioning you." "What did it say?" "That he was sorry for destroying your marriage and that you showed him more mercy than he deserved. He asked that his son be told you're a good man." Gavin sank onto a workbench, overwhelmed by conflicting emotions. Relief, guilt, sadness, anger, they all crashed over him at once. "I need to ask," Detective Tran said carefully. "Did you have any contact with him recently? Any threats or—" "No, nothing like that. The letter was the first I'd heard from him since the trial." "I believe you, but I had to ask." After she left, Gavin sat alone in the garage, staring at his hands. Cole was dead. The man who'd destroyed his marriage, who'd turned his life upside down, was gone. And instead of feeling vindicated, Gavin felt hollow. He thought about Cole's son, who would now grow up without a father. He thought about Cole's ex-wife, who despite everything would be grieving. He thought about the letter Cole had written, taking responsibility for his actions in the end. Maybe that was enough. Maybe it was time to let go of the anger completely. The funeral was small, poorly attended. Gavin didn't go, but he sent flowers with a simple card. "For Evan. My condolences on your loss." A week later, Evan showed up at the garage with red eyes and a hollow expression. "I wanted to thank you for the flowers," he said. "I'm sorry for your loss." Are you? He destroyed your life. He made mistakes. Bad ones. But he was still your father. Evan nodded, tears starting to fall. He wasn't always like this, you know. When I was little, he was a good dad. He taught me to throw a football, helped with my homework, came to all my games. I'm sure he was. People are complicated, Evan. They can be good and bad at the same time. The note he left, he said you were the better man. That he'd lost himself somewhere along the way and forgot who he was supposed to be. Gavin thought about his own journey over the past year, how close he'd come to losing himself in revenge. We all lose our way sometimes. The important thing is finding our way back. I don't know how to do that. One day at a time, one choice at a time. They worked in silence for the rest of the afternoon, two men trying to make sense of tragedy and find a way forward. That evening, Gavin found Lacey in the kitchen making dinner. She looked up when he entered, studying his face. You heard about Mr. Jameson? Yeah. How are you handling it? I don't know. I mean, I hated him for what he did to us, but I didn't want him to die. That's normal. It shows you have a good heart. Evan's devastated. He's blaming himself, wondering if he could have done something. There's nothing he could have done. Cole made his choice. Is it our fault? Did we push him too far? Gavin considered the question seriously. I don't know. Maybe. I was so angry, so focused on making him pay, that I didn't think about the consequences. Mom's taking it hard too. She called me crying. Says she feels responsible. Where is she now? Still in Phoenix. She's seeing a therapist, trying to work through everything. Gavin nodded. It was good that Rachel was getting help. They all needed to heal from this. 2 months later, Gavin was at the hardware store picking up supplies when he ran into a woman struggling with a heavy bag of mulch. Without thinking, he stepped forward to help. Here, let me get that for you. Thank you so much. I swear these bags get heavier every year. She was attractive in a natural way. Brown hair streaked with gray, laugh lines around her eyes, no wedding ring. When she smiled, Gavin felt something stir that he thought was dead. I'm Carol, by the way. Carol Martinez. Gavin Holt, nice to meet you. Are you the Gavin Holt, the one who owns Henderson's Auto? Gavin tensed. Here it comes, he thought. The judgment, the pity, the questions about his very public divorce. Guilty as charged. My car's been making this weird noise. Think you could take a look at it? Sure, what kind of noise? As they talked about her car troubles, Gavin found himself relaxing. Carol didn't seem to know or care about his personal drama. She was just a woman with a car problem, treating him like a normal person. I could stop by tomorrow if you want, he offered. That would be great. I teach 3rd grade, so any time after 4 works for me. The next day, Gavin found himself taking extra care with his appearance before heading to Carol's house. It was a modest ranch home with a well-tended garden and children's artwork taped to the windows. Must be nice working with kids, he said as they walked to her garage. It has its moments. Though I have to say 8-year-olds are much more honest than adults, sometimes brutally so. Gavin popped the hood of her Honda and immediately spotted the problem. Your serpentine belt's about to snap. Good thing you brought it in when you did. Is it expensive to fix? Not at all. $20 for the part. Maybe $30 for labor if you have me do it. You're not charging me shop rates. Consider it a neighbor discount. While Gavin worked on the car, Carol brought him a glass of iced tea and asked about his business. She listened with genuine interest as he talked about engines and transmissions, asking intelligent questions that showed she was actually paying attention. You really love what you do, she observed. It's honest work. I fix things that are broken. That's a valuable skill. I wish more things could be fixed as easily as cars. There was something in her tone that made Gavin look up. Sounds like you speak from experience. Divorced 3 years ago. My ex decided he needed a younger model. Literally, he married a 25-year-old he met at a car show. I'm sorry, that must have been rough. It was, but I survived. We all did. We? I have 2 kids. Emma's 12, Jake's 10. They're at their dad's this weekend. Gavin finished the repair and closed the hood. Try starting it now. The engine turned over smoothly, without the grinding noise that had brought Carol to him. She smiled broadly, and Gavin felt that flutter again. You're a miracle worker. What do I owe you? The tea was payment enough. Come on, at least let me pay for the part. Tell you what, there's a new restaurant downtown, Italian place. Maybe you could buy me dinner sometime? Carol's smile faltered slightly. I should probably mention, I know who you are. What happened with your wife and that real estate guy? Small town, big gossip mill. Gavin's heart sank. And? And I think you handled it with more class than most men would have. Your ex-wife made her choices. You just made sure she faced the consequences. Some people think I went too far. Some people have never been betrayed by someone they trusted completely. I understand why you did what you did. So, dinner? I'd like that. But I should warn you, I'm not looking for anything serious. I'm still figuring out who I am outside of being someone's wife. That's fine. I'm not sure I'm ready for serious either. They went to Marcello's the following Friday. It was Gavin's first real date in 20 years, and he was nervous as a teenager. But Carol put him at ease with her easy laugh and self-deprecating humor. So what's the worst car problem you've ever seen? She asked over pasta. Lady brought in a minivan that wouldn't start. Turns out her grandson had filled the gas tank with sand. Took 3 days to clean it all out. Kids, Carol laughed. They're adorable until they're expensive. Tell me about yours. Carol's face lit up as she talked about Emma and Jake, their personalities, their interests, their struggles with the divorce. Gavin found himself genuinely interested, asking follow-up questions and sharing stories about Lacey's childhood. You're a good dad, Carol said. That's obvious. I try. I made a lot of mistakes, especially this past year. We all make mistakes. The important thing is learning from them. After dinner, Gavin walked Carol to her car. The evening air was warm, and he found himself reluctant for the night to end. I had a really good time, he said. So did I. Though I have to ask, is this part of some elaborate revenge plot against your ex-wife? Gavin was startled by the directness of the question. What? No. Why would you think that? Because in my experience, recently divorced men usually have one of two motivations: genuine interest or spite. I need to know which this is. Gavin considered the question seriously. Honestly, I don't know. 6 months ago, I was so angry I couldn't see straight. Now, I just want to move forward. I want to be happy again. That's a good answer. Good enough for a second date? We'll see. But there was a second date and a third. Carol was unlike Rachel in every way. Independent, direct, unimpressed by social status or appearances. She worked with her hands in her garden, read voraciously, and had strong opinions about everything from school funding to foreign policy. You're not what I expected, Gavin told her one evening as they sat on her back porch. What did you expect? Someone more careful, more guarded. I was for a while, but being careful didn't protect me from getting hurt. So now I figure I might as well be honest about who I am and what I want. And what do you want? Right now, someone who makes me laugh, someone I can trust, someone who sees me as more than just a substitute for what he lost? The comment stung because it hit close to home. Was he dating Carol because he genuinely cared about her, or because he was lonely and she was available? I'm not trying to replace Rachel, he said finally. Good, because I'm not her. I won't be her. I'm me, and that has to be enough. As summer turned to fall, Gavin found himself spending more time with Carol and her kids. Emma was shy, but wickedly funny once she warmed up. Jake was a motorhead who peppered Gavin with questions about engines and transmissions. You know a lot about cars, Gavin told him one Saturday as they changed the oil in Carol's Honda. My dad taught me some stuff before he left. He sounds like a smart guy. Mom says he's an idiot. Well, people can be both smart and stupid at the same time. Jake considered this. Or are you going to marry my mom? The question caught Gavin off guard. I don't know. Would that bother you? I guess not. You're nicer than her last boyfriend. She had a boyfriend? Yeah, Mr. Stevens from the bank. He was boring. All he talked about was interest rates and investment portfolios. Gavin filed this information away, surprised by a flash of jealousy. He had no right to be possessive. They weren't exclusive, hadn't made any commitments. But the thought of Carol with another man bothered him more than it should have. That evening, as they sat in Carol's living room watching a movie with the kids, Gavin felt something he hadn't experienced in years. Contentment. Not the desperate happiness of new love, but the quiet satisfaction of being exactly where he belonged. What are you thinking about? Carol asked during a commercial break. Just this, how normal it feels. Normal's underrated. I used to think so. Now I'm not so sure. Later that night, after the kids had gone to bed, Carol walked Gavin to his truck. Can I ask you something? She said. Shoot. Do you still love her? Rachel? Gavin thought about it carefully. I love the woman I thought she was. The mother of my daughter, the partner I built a life with, but that woman doesn't exist anymore. Maybe she never did. That's not really an answer. The honest answer is, I don't know, I'm still figuring it out. I can live with that. But I need you to know I won't be anyone's consolation prize. If you're with me, you need to be all in. What if I can't be? What if I'm too damaged? Then we'll figure it out together, or we won't, and we'll both move on. But I'm not going to spend months wondering if you're comparing me to your ex-wife. Gavin kissed her then, soft and tentative at first, then with growing intensity. When they broke apart, Carol smiled. And that was a good start. The relationship deepened over the winter months. Gavin met Carol's parents, helped Jake with a science project, and attended Emma's school play. Carol integrated seamlessly into his life too, charming Lacey and even winning over Mitch with her knowledge of classic rock. But the real test came in February, when Rachel returned to town. Gavin learned about it from Lacey, who mentioned it casually over breakfast. Mom's back. She got a job at the elementary school. Gavin's coffee cup froze halfway to his lips. Which elementary school? Franklin. She's working in the office. Franklin Elementary, where Carol taught 3rd grade. When did this happen? Last week. She called me yesterday, wants to have lunch. Gavin nodded, trying to keep his expression neutral. That's good. You should see her. Are you okay with that? She's your mother, Lacey. You don't need my permission to have a relationship with her. But privately, Gavin was anything but okay. Rachel's return stirred up emotions he'd thought were buried. Anger, hurt, and something else he didn't want to examine too closely. The confrontation he'd been dreading came 3 days later. Gavin was picking Carol up from work when he saw a familiar figure in the school parking lot. Rachel stood beside a small sedan, keys in hand, staring directly at him. Go ahead, Carol said quietly. I'll wait in the car. Gavin walked over to his ex-wife, struck by how different she looked. She'd gained weight, her hair was shorter, and she seemed smaller somehow, less vibrant. Hello, Gavin. Rachel? I heard you were back. I needed to be close to Lacey, and this was the only job I could find. They stood in awkward silence, two people who'd once shared everything now struggling to find words. You look good, Rachel said finally. Happy. I'm trying to be. The teacher, Carol Martinez, she seems nice. I'm glad. You deserve to be happy. So do you. Rachel's laugh was bitter. I'm not sure I deserve anything after what I did, but I'm trying to make amends. To be better. That's all any of us can do. Are you? We're taking it slow. Rachel nodded, blinking back tears. I should go. I just wanted you to know I'm not here to cause trouble. I just want to be part of Lacey's life again. She'd like that. As Rachel drove away, Gavin felt a complex mix of emotions. The woman he'd once loved was gone, replaced by someone smaller and sadder. He felt pity for her and guilt for the role he'd played in her downfall. How was that? Carol asked when he got back to the car. Weird. Sad. I don't know. Do you want to talk about it? Not really. Not yet. Carol nodded and didn't press. It was one of the things he loved about her, her ability to give him space when he needed it. But the encounter with Rachel had shaken him more than he wanted to admit. That night, alone in his house, Gavin found himself looking through old photo albums. Pictures of their wedding, family vacations, Christmas mornings with Lacey. The evidence of a life that had seemed real and solid, but had crumbled at the first real test. His phone rang. It was Carol. Hey! Hey yourself, you okay? I think so. Why? Because you've been quiet since this afternoon. And when men get quiet after seeing their ex-wives, it usually means they're having feelings they don't want to talk about. Gavin smiled despite himself. You're very wise for a 3rd grade teacher. I prefer emotionally intelligent. Are you having second thoughts about us? No, maybe, I don't know. That's honest, at least. Seeing her it brought back a lot of stuff I thought I'd dealt with. Like what? Like wondering if I could have saved our marriage if I'd tried harder, if I'd been a better husband, if I'd paid more attention to what she needed. Gavin, listen to me. Your wife had an affair. For 9 months, she lied to you, betrayed you, and planned to leave you. That's not your fault. I know that intellectually, but emotionally. Emotionally, you're wondering if you're capable of being loved. If you're enough for someone. How did you know that? Because I felt the same way after my divorce. Like I must have been deficient somehow, or my husband wouldn't have left me for someone younger. But you got over it. I'm getting over it. It's a process, and part of that process is learning to trust again, both yourself and other people. What if I can't? What if I'm too broken? Then we'll figure it out together, but you're not broken, Gavin. You're hurt. There's a difference. Over the following weeks, Gavin made an effort to work through his feelings about Rachel's return. He had lunch with Lacey after she'd seen her mother, listening as his daughter talked about Rachel's struggles with guilt and depression. She's in therapy, Lacey said. Individual and group counseling. She's really trying to understand why she did what she did. That's good. It takes courage to face your mistakes. She asked about you, about Carol. What did you tell her? That you're happy. That Carol's good for you. And how did she react to that? She cried, but she said she was glad you found someone. Gavin nodded, surprised by how much Rachel's reaction affected him. Part of him had wanted her to be jealous, to realize what she'd lost, but her genuine happiness for his newfound contentment was somehow more painful than jealousy would have been. The situation came to a head in March during a school board meeting Carol had asked him to attend. The district was voting on budget cuts, and teachers were advocating for their programs. Gavin was there to support Carol, who was fighting to save the art program. He was sitting in the back when Rachel entered the room. She looked around nervously before taking a seat near the front. When Carol stood to address the board, Rachel turned to listen, and their eyes met across the room. There was no hostility in Rachel's gaze, just a kind of weary resignation. She nodded slightly at Carol, a gesture of acknowledgement that somehow felt like benediction. After the meeting, as people filed out of the auditorium, Rachel approached Gavin and Carol. Miss Martinez? I'm Rachel Holt. I work in the office at Franklin. Oh, yes, nice to meet you. I just wanted to say your speech about the importance of arts education was beautiful. I hope the board listens. Thank you. That means a lot. The three of them stood in awkward silence until Rachel turned to Gavin. Take care of yourself, Gavin. You deserve good things. So do you, Rachel. After she left, Carol was quiet during the drive home. She's not what I expected, she said finally. What did you expect? I don't know. Someone more villainous, I guess. Someone easier to hate. She's not a villain. She's just someone who made terrible choices. Do you forgive her? Gavin thought about it. I'm trying to. Not for her sake, but for mine. Carrying around all that anger was eliminating me. And us? Are you okay with us? More than okay. You're the best thing that's happened to me in years. Good, because I love you. The words hit Gavin like a physical blow. It was the first time either of them had said it, and hearing it out loud made everything real in a way it hadn't been before. I love you too, he said, and meant it. That summer, Gavin did something he never thought he'd do again. He started planning a future with someone. He and Carol talked about moving in together, about blending their families, about maybe getting married someday. What about the kids? He asked one evening as they sat on his porch. Emma's already calling you Gavin Dad when she thinks I'm not listening, and Jake wants to apprentice at your garage when he turns 16. And Lacey? Lacey's fine with it. She likes having a house full of people again. It was true. His daughter had blossomed since Carol and the kids had started spending time at their house. She was more animated, more social, more like the girl she'd been before the divorce. So, we're really doing this? Gavin asked. If you want to. I want to. They set a tentative moving date for the fall after Emma and Jake had settled into the new school year. Carol would sell her house and move into Gavin's, bringing her kids into the family he was rebuilding. But before that could happen, there was one more confrontation to face. It came in August at the annual Founders Day festival. Gavin was working the volunteer fire department's booth when he saw a commotion near the dunk tank. Cole's brother Marcus had arrived, drunk and looking for trouble. Where is he? Marcus shouted, scanning the crowd. Where's the fool who eliminated my brother? Gavin's blood ran cold. Marcus was a bigger man than Cole had been, with a reputation for violence and a history of run-ins with the law. He was also clearly intoxicated and spoiling for a fight. "There he is," Marcus said, spotting Gavin. "The great Gavin Holt, the hero who destroyed my family." People began backing away as Marcus pushed through the crowd toward Gavin's booth. Carol appeared at Gavin's side, her face pale with fear. "Stay back," Gavin told her quietly. "You think you're some kind of vigilante?" Marcus yelled, now close enough that Gavin could smell the alcohol on his breath. "You think you had the right to destroy my brother?" "Your brother destroyed himself," Gavin said calmly. "I just held him accountable." "Accountable? You drove him to self-destruction, you self-righteous prick." "I'm sorry for your loss, Marcus." But Cole made his choices. "Bees?" Marcus swung wildly, his fist glancing off Gavin's shoulder. "He was a good man before you came after him." Gavin dodged the second punch and grabbed Marcus's wrist, using his momentum to spin him around and pin his arm behind his back. Years of firefighter training had taught him how to subdue aggressive sufferers. "Let me go." Marcus struggled against Gavin's grip. "Not until you calm down." "He was my baby brother. He made a mistake and you eliminated him for it." Gavin felt the man's anguish and grief, recognized the pain of someone who'd lost everything and needed someone to blame. He loosened his grip slightly. "I know you're hurting," Gavin said quietly. "I know you miss him, but this won't bring him back. You don't know anything. You got your revenge and walked away. We're the ones who have to live with the consequences. You think I walked away? You think this has been easy for me?" Marcus stopped struggling, something in Gavin's tone catching his attention. "I think about your brother every day," Gavin continued. "I wonder if I could have handled things differently. If I could have been the bigger man, I have to live with the knowledge that my actions contributed to his end. Then why did you do it? Because I was angry, because I was hurt. Because I wanted him to pay for what he did to my family." Gavin released Marcus's arm. "But I went too far. I let my need for revenge consume me, and now a man is dead. I have to live with that." Marcus turned around, tears streaming down his face. "He wasn't a bad person, he lost his way." "I know, we all lose our way sometimes. I loved him. He was all I had left after our parents died." "Then honor his memory by being better than he was." "Don't let his mistakes define who you become." Marcus stared at Gavin for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "I'm sorry for coming here, for trying to fight you. I needed someone to blame." "I understand. I've been there." As Marcus walked away, deflated and broken, Gavin felt the weight of the past 2 years settling on his shoulders. He'd gotten his revenge, but at what cost? Cole was dead. Marcus was destroyed. Rachel was in exile. And Gavin had nearly lost himself in the process. "That was incredibly brave," Carol said, taking his hand. "No, it wasn't. It was just necessary." That night, Gavin lay in bed thinking about the encounter with Marcus. He realized that his journey wasn't over. Maybe it never would be. He would always carry the weight of his choices, the knowledge of what his quest for vengeance had cost. But he would also carry the love he'd found with Carol, the relationship he was rebuilding with Lacey, and the hope that he could be better than the man he'd been in his darkest moments. The next morning, he called his lawyer. "Tom, it's Gavin. I want to set up a scholarship fund." "What kind of scholarship?" "For kids who've lost parents to self-destruction, in Cole Jamison's name." There was a long pause. "Are you sure about this?" "I'm sure. Can you set it up anonymously?" "Of course." "How much are you thinking?" "Everything I got from the divorce settlement." "All of it?" "Gavin, that's nearly $200,000. "It's blood money, Tom." "I don't want it." "If you're sure?" "I'm sure." The scholarship was announced in the local paper 2 weeks later. Anonymous donor establishes memorial fund for children of self-destruction sufferers. The article mentioned that the fund was named after Cole Jamison and would provide educational assistance to students who had lost parents to self-destruction. Gavin never told anyone he was the donor, but he suspected Carol knew. She didn't ask questions, just squeezed his hand when she saw the article and said, "I'm proud of you." Fall arrived with a crisp promise of new beginnings. Carol and her kids moved in on a Saturday morning with help from Lacey, Evan, and a dozen friends and neighbors. The house that had felt empty and haunted for 2 years was suddenly full of life again. "It's going to be loud," Carol warned as Jake raced through the living room with a remote control car. "Good," Gavin said, pulling her close. "I'm tired of quiet." That evening, as they sat on the porch watching Emma and Lacey paint each other's nails while Jake and Evan worked on a car engine in the garage, Gavin felt something he'd thought was lost forever: peace. "No regrets?" Carol asked. "Only one. What's that?" "That it took me so long to figure out what really matters, which is this: family, love, being present for the people who matter." "What about justice? What about making people pay for their mistakes?" Gavin thought about Cole, dead in his cell, about Marcus, broken and grieving, about Rachel trying to rebuild her life one day at a time. Justice without mercy isn't justice at all. It's just revenge. And revenge is a poison that eliminates the person who drinks it. Carol smiled and leaned against his shoulder. "Look at you, getting all philosophical in your old age." 44 isn't old. It is when you're dating a younger woman. You're 2 years younger than me. Still counts. They sat in comfortable silence, watching their blended family settle into its new rhythm. In the distance, Gavin could hear the sound of laughter, engines running, and the ordinary chaos of daily life. It wasn't the life he'd planned. It wasn't the family he'd started with, but it was his, and it was good, and it was enough. As the sun set over the suburban landscape, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Gavin Holt closed his eyes and let himself believe in second chances. The story of his marriage to Rachel was over, ended in betrayal and bitterness and the kind of pain that changes a person forever. But the story of his life with Carol was just beginning, built on a foundation of honesty, forgiveness, and the hard-won wisdom that comes from surviving your worst mistakes. He'd been a husband, a sufferer, a villain, and finally a man learning to love again. The journey had nearly destroyed him, but it had also taught him who he really was when everything else was stripped away. And that perhaps was worth all the pain that had come before.